Here comes X's and O's with Minnesota Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell, and I'm Paul Allen. This is courtesy of the Minnesota Lottery. Division-winning head coach Kevin O'Connell of the Minnesota Vikings locking up the North against Indianapolis. Now 3 to go, 1 at home, including this Saturday at noon against the New York Giants, and it's a winter whiteout. If you were coming to the game, wear white to support not only the cause, but the vibe within the building. Now, congratulations on the victory. And after Justin Jefferson scored your 21st point, so it's 36-21. Generally speaking, I'm going to say 9.5 out of 10 times, Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Vikings, would head to Justin or Kirk or whomever's coming off that's not on the extra point team. Instead, because I put my binoculars on the bench and I saw you zip over to the defense. Every single player, bam, 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 don't know what you were saying, but I mean, when it comes to collaboration and empowering people and recognizing the forest for the trees of the moment, do you remember doing that? And do you happen to remember like what you were saying to them?
Yeah, I was just telling them at that point in time in the game, we had already come back a long way, but we were just getting started. And it required not only the defense, but special teams. Every play mattered. Every moment mattered if you were going to try to do something that's never been done before. And I felt like we had captured the momentum in the football game. But when you're down 33 points, that only matters if you can maintain it, snap in and snap out. And it was by no stretch perfect, even in the second half. But I just thought our team's ability, what we were hunting is trying to make it the old adage, hey, let's just make it interesting. It's more than that. We were trying to put our opponent in a position where they felt some pressure. And you can't do that down 33. You can't do that, as you started, just chipping away at that lead. It had to be to a one-possession game by a certain point in that game, in my opinion. And I didn't want to let up. I didn't want to have one moment where we allowed a let up and kind of an exhale for the other side, because I just don't think you get it done if you do that.
Yeah, I was super happy for so many defensive moments during that game, allowing just one touchdown. McLaughlin, 5 field goals. I mean, the alternative could be touchdowns. You killed them in the red area, and their third down got bad late. So, I mean, just everything just came together defensively, and that was beautiful. Now, speaking of the defense, line coach Chris Rump will join us after Kevin. And defensive tackle Harrison Phillips had a career-high 10 tackles in the history maker. Best game maybe he's played for you?
Yeah, I think so. And he's a guy that's just consistently shown up every single week, sometimes doing some dirty jobs up there up front, eating up blocks. And I thought he did a great job getting off blocks, making some tackles, some critical TFL-type plays, and getting guys right around the line of scrimmage. And just an absolute warrior. At this point in time in the season, you're never going to feel 100%, especially those guys up front.
Right.
So for him to overcome some little things here and there throughout the week and then ultimately have that kind of performance, just a huge day for Harrison.
And also potentially lost in the history maker, Dalvin's 64 yards screen run, the longest reception of his career. A lot went into it. But when you had, I think it was from Miami, where Dalvin went like 21 miles per hour or whatever. Did you happen to have one of those for Ezra Cleveland?
We need it
on that play. I mean, it might have been a 23.
Yeah, I think
big man got down the field.
Word on the street, it was almost to 18.
Really?
Which, I don't want to say the exact number, but let's just say it got close to 18.
Right.
Which is a pretty special number for a 300-pound-plus man out in the open field.
And then a big lumbering man right at the end, you're kind of like, no, get out of the way.
Yeah, I just didn't want him to, he doesn't get out there all that much. I didn't want him to make his, first career tackle right there, keeping us out of the end zone.
Yeah, man, I just love the season Ezra Cleveland has had. Just fantastic. Now, with Dalvin, the jump cuts during that thing were amazing too. But, in watching at Vikings.com, your post-game speech to the team, which I love watching every single week. It seems like the player in you, the former player in you, came out.
Yeah.
But I just felt it. I felt each and every one of you. I felt the captains with your C's on your chest, understanding that we were about to go break an all-time regular season or playoff record for comeback victory to win.
That is accurate, and you kind of know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I just, you know.
You were so pumped up.
There was a couple times there where I did get really emotional. Even before, you know, addressing the team, I was kind of standing. Not very many people saw me standing off to the, you know, corner of the locker room, kind of composing myself. But I'm watching our players start to celebrate what they had accomplished, and guys coming in from the field, and just understanding not only did we just accomplish our main goal coming in this year was to, first and foremost, we want to win the division. Then we'll worry about, you know, getting in the tournament and having a chance to play week in and week out for a possible chance at winning a Lombardi trophy. But watching them do it the way they did, an all-time record comeback, it was fitting for this team, for this season. Just so proud of the way they battled the adversity in that game, overcame so much. That whether it's the former player in me or just so dang proud of our guys, and the leadership in some of those moments, and at halftime when it felt like 31 other teams might sound a lot different than this team right now, I feel like we've earned the right to be pretty proud of ourselves for what we accomplished, knowing we've got so much ahead of us now that we've earned the right to accomplish.
Yeah, just look from afar, Kevin, like you had the former player in you, where you were bounding about, and you wanted to bounce around, being like, "Say we can't come back! Say we can't come back!" You know, just like that, where you had to control it, man.
Yeah,
it was so beautiful.
It's people forget sometimes. You don't in those moments. You know, you don't plan anything out ahead of time. You're just purely, that is a direct path into your heart.
And it's okay to show childlike enthusiasm.
Yeah, I think so too.
Whether you're
Glad you said that.
Tom Landry, Wink Martindale, who you get next, the old schoolers, or, you know, new coaches like you and some others in the league. You get another one this week with Brian Daboll. But speaking of Wink Martindale, defensive coordinator for the Giants. Now, that's an old schooler. So that means lots of looks, lots of tricks coming this weekend. Is that how it's going to be?
Yeah, lots of looks, different personnel, tons of pressure, always amongst the top in our league in pressure percentages. What that looks like can be a lot of different things. It's a real challenge. They've got some really good players up front. Leonard Williams has been as dynamic as any three technique in our league.
Dexter Lawrence is a
Dexter
monster.
Lawrence has been really, really good since he came into the league. And you think about adding Thibodeau from Oregon. I mean, that's another guy. It seems like some of these players we were really studying before the draft are now on teams where we're going to see them here week in and week out. But was a huge fan of his throughout, and knew we probably wouldn't have a chance to add him. But what a talent, and he really is coming off of one of his best performances of the season last week against the Commanders.
In your post-game press conference after the History Maker, you said, quote, "Sometimes culture stuff gets challenged in our league," end quote. And it was leading into how much everybody still believed in each other at halftime, what Patrick Peterson said, you know, with just a simple request of 5 touchdowns, which that's really easy, but nevertheless you did it. But when you say sometimes culture stuff gets challenged in our league, what does that mean?
I just think in this day and age, whether it's fantasy football or stats, it's a 24/7, 365-day a year news cycle league that, and I understand that, but the little things still matter. The feeling our players get when they walk in our building every day matters. How they feel in the locker room around each other on a Tuesday or a Wednesday matters on Sunday, or in this case, a Saturday, when they come in down 33 points and it was our fault. We had earned that 0 to 33 score just like we earned 39 to 36. So I just think in the moments where it truly matters the most, or when sometimes it gets overlooked the most. Yeah. And I'm just really proud of our guys and what we've built, hand in hand with our leadership and our players, to make sure that, that saying, being at your best when your best is required, you can only do that if you're in the best possible headspace to go attack it with the guy next to you, for the guy next to you, and get something done in a really special way.
So when you say that it gets convoluted or challenged in our league, it's more like, that's touchy-feely. Yeah,
exactly.
You have Justin Jefferson, so it's easy to have good culture when you got him and some of the other players. But, I mean, so much more goes into it is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, and not one time, the defense, you mentioned it, they held the Colts 5 field goals. They did get stops. They only gave up 1 true touchdown in that first half. And not one time did you see any of those guys pointing a finger at the offensive bench or special teams for the block punt. It was more so, hey, we're going to get a stop for you to then go do your job, and we're going to do it for our team, and we're going to do it together. And people may not think it matters, but I don't think, as Kirk said, you can do something as uncommon as set a record in our league that's lasted a long time here as far as deficits. You don't do that unless there's something pretty special about this group.
I know Sean McVay is your mentor, and I know the reverence that you have for him, and you shared it here and off the mic when I've asked you some questions about him. But like Brandon Staley, who former defensive coordinator with the Rams, he coaches the Chargers. Well, they won a super tight one last weekend, and one of the first things he said after the game was Herbert and some others were their best when their best was required.
Yep.
That's culture, taking something, being a limb on a tree, if you want to look at it that way, and filtering what truly matters and what doesn't, and spreading it and sharing it. And man, I just, when you say Sean is your mentor, it's deeply rooted with like what you learned with the Rams, right? And
I've said this before, but when you go through a process and you are able to win a Super Bowl doing it a certain way and feeling so strong deep to your core that it's the right way, and then to authentically be able to go do that and try to recreate that kind of feeling in a building, I just don't know any other way, PA. And it's hard for me to be told otherwise when it was cemented with a Lombardi trophy. So that's ultimately what I wake up early every day and stay late to try to strive to build here for our players, for our team, for our coaches, but also for our fans. I mean, how about that effort to withstand 33 unanswered points by an opponent, stick around, and then the second we got in the end zone for that first time, it was as loud as US Bank has been all season, knowing that they played a huge role in helping will our team to do something, as Kirk said, uncommon.
Best of luck against the New York Giants. I want to talk more about Cousins next time we get together. He's just tearing it up, and KJ's game and everything. But congratulations. Best of luck against the Giants, and congratulations on the division title.
Thank you, PA.
That's Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm Paul Allen. Coming up next, Chris Rumpf, defensive line coach for Kevin's Minnesota Vikings, on X's and O's on the KFAN Minnesota Vikings Radio Network.